Minnesota Vikings fans, welcome back to the Living in Loserville podcast, Purple People Eaters edition. I'm your host, Chris Carlson. My co-host, Aaron Miller, will be joining us very, very shortly. And hopefully everybody had a good holiday there, the Christmas or Kwanzaa or Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. Maybe you don't celebrate anything. Hopefully you got some time with friends or family or somebody, or just got a little time off from work, whatever it is. But man, man almighty, every once in a while we catch some stick for the name of this show, the Living in Loserville podcast. But if that game against Green Bay doesn't fit the show well, I don't know what does. So obviously we're back to talk some Minnesota Vikings football, obviously coming off that bad loss that even with that score 10-9 well into the third quarter, just couldn't get over the hump offensively. The defense played pretty damn good until they didn't, but a lot of that was just, wearing down when it's 27-14 at one point. Deep in the game as far as time of possession. Guess what? Sure, they didn't maybe need to give up a 56-yarder or whatever run, but you're going to wear it down. So you really can't blame the defense on this one. Obviously, offense, whether you had Cousins doing, not playing up to par, the offensive line, our screen game, the play calling. I mean, one play action in the first half, really one play action call. The fact that we didn't go to the short passes earlier, when we're clearly can't protect, we couldn't predict the protection either, right? Yeah, it was just ugly. So we're going to talk about some positives. There were some, but mostly negatives, right? Coming out of that loss to the Green Bay Packers. Coming into it, though, when we last spoke last week, we didn't know if we were in the playoffs yet. With the Rams losing on Saturday, we knew that we're playoff bound. So Cook was probably going to be out anyway. But hopefully we can get him back. But man, you can really tell the difference without Cook. Not just opening holes and all that, but really that one-on-one out in space, somebody getting tackled and he picks up 20 yards. So we're definitely going to go over this ugly win. No, we're not going to spend 45 minutes breaking it down because we know how you guys feel about it, and you probably want to move on. So we're a little. It happened Monday. It's Thursday, so we won't hit you over the head with 50 minutes of recap. We will look towards the next game, the Chicago Bears, which, based off their defensive line, it's something we've documented the last couple of years since we've been doing this show. Some key pieces could give us problems, just like that Packer game too. So yeah, we're going to break down, preview, predict that Chicago Bears game, and then we'll get out of here, and we'll let you go back to the holiday season, and then we'll be back next Monday to wrap that up and take a look at what we're looking at for the predictions on the playoffs, because we are going to the playoffs, no doubt about it. I mean, should we rest a fair amount of guys that are banged up? I don't know. It's going to be interesting how this works out. But anyway, before we get into it, if this is your first time listening to the Living in Loserville podcast, it can be found right here on blogtalkradio.com/Rope-A-Dope Radio. It streams live at archives. It's basically right here, the headquarters. However, if you want to listen to this show under the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast, it's pretty much everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Stitcher, Spreaker. We're also part of the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network that can be found everywhere, including iHeartRadio. You can use your Siri or Alexa through Spotify or tune in to find either platforms. While you're at it, why don't you head on over to thegruelingtruth.net. It's football, it's basketball, it's baseball, it's boxing, it's everything in between. They got a great sponsor over there, betnow.eu with the TGT promo code, as in the Grueling Truth. And one more thing. If you're thinking about cutting the cord, or maybe you have and you're just not quite satisfied, you're a sports fan, you want some sort of package, I got something you may want to try here. AT&T TV Now. It's live streaming cable, okay? They have the 7-day free trial. However, the plans start as low as $50 a month, no annual contract. You can stream it anywhere, not just on your smart TV. They got the cloud DVR, which is clutch. It's available in California, Florida, New York, parts of Texas, up here in Minneapolis, St. Louis. It's available Seattle. It's available all across the country, not in every city. It's a growing thing. But AT&T TV now, head on over to the website, put your area code in, and see what they got for you. Okay, AT&T TV now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in my co-host, and we're going to break down this, our first loss, Vikings' first loss at home. That just clicked of the season. And it's like a broken record since we've been doing this the last 2 years. If you look at some of the Seattle game last year, the Patriots game last year, both Bears game, especially the first one last year, the New Orleans game, this year, Chicago and Green Bay. There's a lot of the same theme. The Chiefs game, although at least those, that was a lot more competitive at the end. We didn't get shut out or anything like that for the most part, but we're right there with the game, able to take control of a game, able to get up 13-9 or 17-9 when your defense is playing good. I mean, it's not like Rodgers had a great game, because he surely didn't. Look at his numbers. He really didn't. They ran the hell out of the ball. I'll give him credit there. But, when they have a difference maker on the defensive line and they have an edge rusher, which that dude who tore us up had, 5 tackles for loss? It's still a problem. Now, when you got a rookie under center, it is what it is. Right? We get it. He's going to have up and back and down, but that edge is just, But anyway, it's a broken record, Aaron. It's just, there's certain defensive lines that we do not match up with and the crappy thing is we're about to play another one, and there's probably 2 of them in the playoffs that we'd have to go through. Obviously the Packers potentially too. First of all, happy holidays. I guess I should say that to you. Hopefully, you got some downtime. It's nice to kind of restore the battery and whatnot, recharge and all that. But we don't call this thing living in Loserville for nothing.
No, we don't. And it's not like we're losers. It's not like, we're calling the people out here listening losers. It's just this is a place where, the weirdest, oddest things will happen, and it always kind of ends in a loss. But, yeah, I had a good Christmas. Everybody liked their gifts, so that took the stress out of it. And then it got a little time off to recharge the battery, as you said. And, everything was great except for that game. And, where do you begin? I mean, we talked a little bit off air about what we thought maybe offensively could have been the problem. We'll get into that a little bit more. But, man, the defense played incredibly well. 3 turnovers from Rodgers in the first half, or just from the Packers themselves. You had everything there for you. I mean, defense was playing very, very well up until the end when, with that time of possession, how long can they continue to play basically shutout football? They just can't do it, and you can't expect them to do it. They were asked to do way too much. And, we'll get into the offense. I guess we could start now. I guess we could probably pass the ball to me on that. Man, I'm going to go with everything outside of what I think the main issue is first. Offensive line was not good. You hit the nail on the head with certain defensive lines we have a very hard time dealing with. And, I didn't know much about this Ladavius or what his name was, but he came over from Baltimore to the Packers, and he just tore us up. And, yeah, the edge has always been a problem with any kind of really good pass rusher on the edge, and we seem to have problems with it. But Bradbury had a terrible night. I just don't know if it was a bad matchup. It seems like it was. He's just getting bull rushed and tricked and pushed and moved, and it's just not something you see from him very often. And, I don't know what led to what, but, we couldn't run the football. I think Green Bay really tried very hard to make sure we couldn't run the football and make Kirk Cousins beat us in prime time, and he just wasn't able to do that. And now that segues into what goes on with Kirk Cousins on Monday night in prime time. I thought maybe this was an aberration. Everybody's talking, this is an issue. And he seemed to have been playing well throughout the season in prime time, well enough. It wasn't anything, but he just sort of melted down from what I saw. His body language, he couldn't get, his extra clutching on catching the snaps, and his passes were low or high to come out of the gate, and his reads were kind of off, and it just everything seemed a bit off. And you can't put everything on Kirk Cousins, but to set a tone for an offense, I just don't think he was in the game, and that sort of leads and branches off into everything else. I mean, had he come out and completed 4, 5, 6 passes in a row, for 2, 3 yards apiece, getting a rhythm, and maybe get something going, but he just couldn't do that. And we, endlessly tried to run the ball in the first quarter, and it just wasn't successful. And I really thought, I remember texting you that I thought Boone was going to have a big night.
Yeah, I agree.
I really thought he was.
Yeah, I agreed right with you.
And yeah, I just kind of saw, Rodgers is sitting there on the bench in the third quarter going, how are we winning this game? We turned the ball over. This defense is killing me for once, and we just can't, I don't know where you want to start with the offense, but I'm assuming it's probably somewhere around the offensive line.
Well, we'll break it down as we go through. I do want to talk a little bit about the actual details of the game as well, but I mean, I'll bring some positivity to it, even a little bit more too, because we might as well get the positive stuff out of the way, right? There's not much of it. Like you said, the defense. Now, that's the third week in a row. Last week we talked about, is this defense playoff ready, or is it shaping into being ready? We couldn't quite figure out which one. So that's a good sign. In fact, the way it's played at times compared to the last chunk of years, it's a great sign, right? But so that was they played great for a lot of it, and I know the rushing yards, they didn't play the rush great through the whole game. That 54, 56, whatever the long run, that sucked at the end. I get it, it is what it is. But they played great. I mean, right off the bat, third down screen pass, boom, forced the fumble from Barr, I believe. Kendrick recovered it. And your first and goal. Kendrick actually picked it up, scooped it up, and got us to the 10th. Or no, it was the 9-yard line. We ran Boone. He got a nice pickup on first down. Okay. And then we come out and throw 2 passes to Ham. And one of them he fell down on, and that's not his fault or anything like that. But it's just kind of weird with these weapons we got to go Ham back-to-back plays. And I think that was the start of also we can blame some Cousins stuff. We can blame some guys not getting open. We can blame definitely the offensive line, both rushing and passing. Of course, we didn't really actually run the ball much. Boone only had 11 carries, and we were only down by a score in the fourth quarter. So it was no way to get away from the run. We just couldn't. The short passing, though, I'm right there with you. And remember that Chicago game when we started to move the ball a little better, and even then that Packer game. We should have went right away to the short passing then. Because, like you said, the rhythm, and it's Cousins in a rhythm, it's everybody. Then you start, even if it is 3 yards, whatever. Obviously, we weren't gaining yards on the run, so who cares? Let's go West Coast on them, right? Get the little 4 or 5 yard, pick up something, and then it can maybe set up a double move or whatever. So I think, there's a lot of blame to go around, but I do want to highlight some of the play calls too. So we'll start right there. So we had to settle for a field goal, and it's come on, dude, But overall, the offense, I mean, too many 3-and-outs in the whole game. I think they had 5 of them in the game, 3 of them in the first half. And let's add a turnover on downs. So that's kind of like that. It's basically a turnover at that point. It was ugly, dude. It was so ugly. And you could see both defenses were rushing the passer well. They were playing pretty well up front. I think it was kind of an up front game early. Harris got that pretty solid INT. He leads the team now with 6 of them. And it's 3rd and 5. We got that turnover, 3rd and 5. We go to Diggs. Cousins puts it right on the rope to him, 10-3. Then it's 10-6. Then it's 10-9. Our defense is bending a little bit, but didn't break. You look at Alexander, you look at Rhodes, those guys had some key knockdowns in the red zone. The only run we had was Abdullah on a 3rd and 19. He picked up 17. And you know and I know on a draw play, you're going to pick up at least 10 on that situation, right? Because they're playing the pass. So they're going to give you something in there. So I don't even look at that as that great of a run because it came on a draw play on 3rd and 19. So that's really not that great. But here you are, 10-3, okay. The D, they did start to move the ball a little bit, but the D held, created turnovers, like you said. Now you're sitting at 10-9. It's 10-9 at half. And you're thinking, we play that crap. They kind of play that crap. Okay, this is okay. We're in good shape. Opening drive, 3 and out. It's just like, okay, here we go. In the first half, 1 play action play. 1 in the first half. That's just, where is it? You know what I mean? That's not a good look. I understand you're not going to go deep down the field all the time. It can be a little short, just boom, bang, and then get it out. It doesn't have to be, like I said, it doesn't have to be that. But then there was another play call on a 3rd and 3 or a 3rd and 4, a reverse to Thielen out of nowhere. Like, it just seemed kind of, I don't know. And then you have a deep pass on a 4th down and 3. You go deep, and it just didn't really line up. It was just the first 4 drives. They didn't even get a first down on the first 4 drives. Meanwhile, that's when we started kind of falling apart running. In the second quarter and then the rest of the game, they're averaging 5.3 a clip. And I thought, man, this is not good. And we were taking away Rodgers. He was 1 of 10 for 10-yard passing. 10-plus yards, I should say.
Really, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, those are great points. And obviously that's how the game went. And I guess I'm contending that it all started from, what do you call? You can't call play action if you can't run the football. And if you're not going to attempt to run the football, you can't run play action. So, that might have something to do with why you didn't see many play action passes. And you can't run the football if you can't pass the football because they just sit on the run. You don't have your best running back, so I'm sure Green Bay said, okay, no Cook. All right, we'll take care of Cousins on this one and let Boone do what he's going to do. If Boone can beat us, he'll beat us. And I guess Boone couldn't beat him, but it all kind of, I guess you got to look at it kind of spiraling out from like, if you can't do this, then you can't do that. Does this make sense? And then if you can't run, you can't play action.
He has to run before.
Yeah, but if Cousins can't throw the ball.
I'm not talking about a play action that's deep down the field.
I know what you're saying.
What about our screen passes? Isn't that how you slow down that edge rush?
We tried that a couple times, and no, that didn't work at all. I guess you get to a point where you're like, Stefanski's probably trying to figure something that's going to work out for this game. Because he's trying this, he's trying that. It's not working. Nothing's working. Now, I don't really think it was much that Green Bay did defensively, except for maybe, try to maybe bracket some receivers because we couldn't run the football. I just think it was a poor performance from number 8. And it all branched off of that. And I'm really not the kind of person to put, a loss on one player. But the tone was set early that he wasn't in the zone, I guess you could say. He wasn't in a comfortable position. And then, it even got to the point where the TV guys, the announcers, were trying to make excuses for him. You can't hold the ball and then blame it on the offensive line. You can't throw the ball at people's feet or over their head and blame it on receivers. Now, it's obviously not all one person. But I really think the tone was set with a nervous and just erratic quarterback in a big game. And it's something that we don't want to look at and point our finger at and say, yeah, that's it. But at this point, man, this offense has been playing adequate to very well all season. And then we get to a Monday night game at home with a lot riding on it, and we can't move the ball at all. We get 3 and out after 3 and out after 3 and out after 4th and 3 after. You can go around and dance around it, man, but I'm just trying to put my finger on it.
It's not dancing around it. It's about it's about when you take your 4 or 5 step drop, do you need time to go to a second and third or no? That's what I'm saying. Play calling plays into this too. So if you had all this stuff happening, why didn't you call a freaking 4-yard pass to Diggs, 4-yard pass to Thielen? Where was that? What about the third downs? Is that Cousins right there? 3rd and 3 reverse to what's his toes when the edge kills us, Thielen? So those are all Cousins?
Well, I would say, I guess, as far as my point goes, is that if you know that you don't have confidence in your quarterback, yeah, you're going to call a reverse on that play instead of a 4-yard pass.
But you haven't called 4-yard pass plays yet, though. You see what I'm saying? Like,
I do see what you're saying.
Do that?
Yeah, but if you know it's not going to be successful, or you have a feeling it's not going to be successful, don't you think you would try something that you thought would be more successful?
You don't think he could complete a 4-yard pass to Diggs?
I don't think so. I don't think Stefanski thought that at all, or he would have called that play.
All right, well, we'll just agree to disagree. That's okay. I'm just saying to put it all on Cousins. I mean, you're talking about high passes. How many high passes were there then? Like it was.
Well, at the point where we were still willing to throw the ball, which was probably early first quarter into the maybe early second quarter, he just wasn't on. He wasn't on target with his passes. He was checked down Charlie to, like you said, twice to C.J. Ham. The rush wasn't that bad in the beginning of the game. It got worse when they realized that they put pressure on him and he just folds like a leaf. I mean, that's to be expected. But I don't feel like, and I don't think that you can open up your playbook when you know that your quarterback is throwing things out errantly and his body language is off and he's not, producing the way that you're used to seeing. I mean, I just don't think that opens up the playbook to, okay, 4th and 3. Do we think we can complete a 4-yard pass to Diggs on this?
So let's go deep.
He should be able to. I mean,
let's go
obviously.
Deep on that play?
No, I'd say, do what they did. You got to find some way to try to get it. So they tried a reverse. It didn't work. They tried a plethora of things on 3rd down. It didn't work. Now that, you're right, it's not all
short passing, though. They didn't use short passing the whole game.
Yeah, I just don't think they had a confidence enough in Kirk to do the short passing game. Or I'm missing something defensively that they were doing.
Well, not only that, but I didn't see all these. I mean, when Cousins on a Monday night especially, when he's missing guys that are running wide open, they show the replays all the time. In fact, sometimes they show the replays just to hit it over the head when he got hit and, he couldn't quite get to that guy, though. Even when it's not his fault, they've shown it. So I think we're going to agree to disagree, and that's okay. Let me just get back to a little bit more of this horseshit game here real quick. Even a couple of times that we had a drive going, there was a drive. It was 10-9, and we actually got a couple of good runs, and I thought, okay, here we go. This is going to be something. And then the next play, we had a miscue, wide open guy, boom. We had not a wide open guy, but a guy coming right at the rush. Next play, sack. We had a play to Diggs that was going to be a first down on a 3rd and 18. Elfline let a guy go, or held a guy, I should say. Now the interception into double coverage, when you throw in double, we've had this point before where we said we don't really have a guy down the field that jumps vertically and can just out-muscle someone. Thielen and Diggs are great at timing it, and they have great hands. So that right there, then actually that was a play-action pass. It was his first pick out of 138. They threw that stat up. I didn't dig for that stat. But, you could say that he shouldn't have thrown it there. That's cool. But, we could also say Diggs was on the ground. He was on the ground. So, I don't know. We got to see. He had the front man coverage, or he was in the front there. So I don't know if that was just a horrible pick. Anytime you throw it downfield double coverage, I would say, yeah, he could probably just went a 15-yard route to somebody that was sitting right there like Rudolph or whatever. But man, and they were short passing That's where they piled up all the yards, just short passing and rushing the ball. And we couldn't do anything about it. And, yeah, like I mentioned, that part, what time of the game was that? 27-14. And you know what they had on us that started killing us defensively? Was that 3rd and 3, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. You know what I mean? That's usually what we've been in, right? And that just really got to us, and it wore us down, and pretty much it was a wrap once they. I even wrote pressure bust pipes, that we know that in Minnesota, right? The sack attack. What did I? Oh, here we go. The 3rd down pressure on both sides I thought was really good. Our side too. Weatherly got a 3rd down sack. But to me, that run late, that sucks or whatever. But we went over this. You can't really blame the defense late. That we've seen that many a times. It just goes back to this, Aaron. Here's my key point about putting it on Cousins mostly. Is time after time under the Zimmer era, we just did it with Rodgers. Look at his numbers. They were not good. We just did it with him. He's going to the Hall of Fame. One of the best ever. Drew Brees last year basically contained the shit out of him. These guys are still going to the Hall of Fame. It's because the defense dominated them. That's why. And when a guy gets 5 tackles for loss in the pros, not in college, that proves to you that they were in the backfield a lot. And they were eating us up. And so I can't – did Cousins misfire a couple shots? Sure. Like I said, that interception in a double team, sure. He probably shouldn't have thrown that, but it's also hard. I'm not trying to give him a break, but when a receiver's on the ground, we don't really know what happened on that play then, because he's on the ground and he was up front. Out of all those two, those guys were behind him. And that guy didn't even jump for that ball, by the way. It came right to him. He just put his arms up. So we can sit there and talk about the pass interference, the pass interference stuff. They've only had 2 pass interference Green Bay called on them all year. Clearly, when you trip up somebody and you got their arm on them, that was a pass interference. The Thielen one, sure, you could say that was a pass interference for that 1st down, but he had 2 hands on it and it came right to him. He dropped the ball. So it is what it is. I hate to, in this type of game, I hate to blame the refs because it's not like –
No, they were –
you know what I mean?
That was interesting because they were, like, nowhere to be seen. That was odd, I thought, for a Minnesota-Green Bay game. There was not many penalties at all.
Yeah. Except they did miss 2 pass interference penalties. But, you know what happens.
Yeah, so, all right, I hear your point.
That's pretty good, isn't it? That's actually a pretty good average when you're playing Green Bay if you only have 2 of them.
Exactly. I know your point, and yes, the backfield was full. But here's, I guess, and we'll move on after this, I guess, unless you want to retort, but throughout the game flow, right? So you start in the first quarter, this is what you want to get done, ideally offensively. This is what they're doing to you defensively. And you have an idea going in with a game plan, and you think, okay, this is what we can do. And so you start to try some of that stuff, and it's not working. So through the game, there wasn't a lot of rush coming out in that first quarter. Yeah, I think we gave up a sack, but it wasn't like it was, unending pressure. I think it just kind of built and built and built when the quarterback and the running back and the offensive line proves that they couldn't either handle the defensive line or that they couldn't throw the ball. And if you can't run the ball, you can't run the ball. If you can't throw it, everything kind of is connected and leads to each other. And that's where I'm saying, like, it came out bad tone. Okay, so we obviously need to throw the ball a little bit more because our running back's out. Green Bay knows their running back's out. They're going to adjust their defense. And on came that. So then Cousins, a little more pressure on him because he's got to throw the ball a little bit more, 4 yards, 5 yards down the field, play action, whatever. And then, if he's not able to do that, what can you do offensively except for take sacks? 3 and outs. There's not much you can do when the 2 probably, I would say, linchpins of your offense, your running back and your quarterback, are not playing well at all. That's what I'm saying. Now, obviously, and I will repeat this, obviously, it's not all Kirk's fault, But in saying that, I will say that the tone was set early. He didn't make good passes when he needed to make them. He looked a little bit timid, staring at the ground. I mean, just the way he looked when the camera was on him when he's walking back after 3 and outs. There was something that's not right. Now, I don't know him, so I don't know if there's something going on, but there is something to this primetime night thing. What it is, you can speculate till the end of the earth, but there is something to it. And yet, it was surprising, I think, mostly because you hadn't seen that to the degree that you saw it on Monday night earlier in the season. There have been plenty of primetime games, 2 or 3, and he played decently well to the point where you go, okay, well, he gave it a good shot. This wasn't working, that wasn't working, blah, blah, blah. But this time on this game, I think you saw whatever it is that comes out of him or doesn't come out of him, whether we want to look at it, it happened. Now, he could come back and have a great game against Chicago, which probably will happen. But we need to focus on the fact that, the guy hasn't won one playoff game. We're about to enter the playoffs. What if that game's at night? I mean, it shouldn't mean anything, but for some reason, like kickers, here it does. And I guess if you can understand what I'm trying to say here, then you can kind of understand what I'm saying. Of course, nothing is ever one player's fault, but, it gets to a point where you go, these patterns start to arise or don't arise, and you have to look at them. And that's basically what I'm doing. I just don't want to – I don't want to add to the shit that's being thrown on the guy's head, but you got to call it for what it is, and this is what I see it being.
Sure. I hear you. Here, I'll give you an example of the early stuff that I'm talking about. So the first – 6 play, because we got it just given to us, the first drive to get that field goal. So that obviously we already went over those play calls back to back ham. And when he threw that on the ground purposely, the second one, because he fell on the ground. Nobody, both those plays were going to ham. You could see it from the start, which is weird in the red zone. You got to admit. I mean, we got Rudolph for Christ's sakes, and a couple other guys too. A little strange, but. That 6-play drive, and that's like one of the most plays we had in the drive. Jesus, 6 plays. What did we go do on that one? So you look at 3rd and 5, it looked pretty, that's manageable for sure. But that was the Thielen, play, where he got, whatever. He still should have made the catch, but he did get clearly pass interference. Now the next drive, we had a penalty. So you had 2nd and 17, and then you had a 3rd and 12. So 3rd and 12, is a lot tougher if they're getting pressure. I think we could both agree on that. Now, the next drive is only 3 plays, but that's when we got the turnover. We got a little, on 3rd down, we got a little time, and he put it right on the money. That was that touchdown. Now, the other drive, beyond that, we got another play, penalty. It's 3rd and a sack. It's 3rd and 19 on 3rd down. So I guess that's what I'm talking about when we talking about some of this. It's hard to do this stuff 3rd and 12, 3rd and 19 when you can't protect the quarterback. So if you say, well, we weren't getting much pressure, that's fair early in the game. But when it's 3rd and 19, something's going wrong. Like to say they didn't get a sack, sure, but then we got 2 penalties, which would have been sacks. So I guess that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of things that you just said make perfect sense. And I agree with you. And that whole Monday night thing, if you go in the stats, like his defense gave up almost 27 points in the NFL. That's a lot of points to give up too. So we can sit there and have a debate of all those Monday night games. We're not obviously going to do that. Now this game, I just can't put it mostly on him. And that's what of course there's no solely on anybody. I guess if if there was barely any penalties and someone just dropped something like, there are some examples, I suppose, but it's very rare. But my tone that I got out of you was, that's just what I was picking up is, the last part that you just did, that monologue, I'm right there with you on that. But the first wave of it, originally in the start of the show, I wasn't on the same page with you because you did mostly put it on him. Whereas this last time, I'm right there with you.
Well, we're right in that. I mean, I think what I'm hearing is we're just the chicken and the egg here. I mean, what came first, a great pass rush or a bad quarterback performance, or or vice versa? I mean,
And
they
I think that
obviously
goes hand in hand.
right, and that's the chicken and the egg. Like which came first. So, yeah, obviously. I'm going to say that, if you look for a problem, we know these things, and you're going to see it everywhere. And I have been looking for this Cousins dilemma, and so perhaps my lens is a little bit clouded. But how do you explain consistent good play from an offense that's winning football, however it be, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the Packers don't have a great defense. But all of a sudden you're onto this pattern of it's Monday night, there's a lot on the game, it's prime time, and nothing. Nothing from an offense, except for a really nice pass to Diggs, and he caught a touchdown. It was a great ball, you put it there.
Does the opponent have anything to do with it? The Cowboys, the Redskins, some of those other Monday night games that we did it. But what's also, we're only talking about here. We didn't watch all those damn Redskins games, that's for sure, on Monday night. But we're talking about the last 2 years. What is the common denominator? And then it goes back to, well, if we shut down Rodgers, is it all his fault that game? Or did we get a bunch of pressure on him and smack him up? Same with Breeze. Same with all these quarterbacks for the last 5 years we shut down. That's where I go, well, yeah, that kind of lines up. He wasn't throwing all these horrible passes over and over again. I guess I'll let you I'll let you rebuttal, and then we do have to move on.
Okay. Defensively, I thought that was the best. I mean, I really thought that those guys, that was the best they played Rodgers I've seen under the Zimmer. I mean, they played well. And they played on, they frustrated him, which is tough to do to Aaron Rodgers. Like, you could see that he was like, what the hell are they doing, and why? You don't see that from him. He's usually really calm, really cool, really collected. And he was really frazzled, man. We were getting turnovers. He was throwing interceptions, disguising things really, really well. Defense played awesome. Gave up, 24 points or something like that? Now, that's amazing. Like, you can't – they did a great job, and I just feel bad for them that the offense could not keep up their end of the bargain and win that football game, because the defense definitely played good enough to win that game. And if they play like that, and the offense can just get you 25 points, that's it. I mean, it's not I guess I'm exasperated because I don't understand.
This is one game, though, this flip-flop we're talking about, though.
Right, obviously
because
one
the
game.
offense has been pulling the weight.
I mean, don't you feel bad for the defense that played? I mean, this is their rival,
man. I don't, because of the way they played this year. If it had been half and half and it was like 8 of the games or this, 8, but it's basically been the offense winning these games. So I don't feel as bad for them this time around because they're finally showing what they showed these last 3 games. And maybe that's a positive that's going to really show up these last 3 games. The defense have played great, but I don't feel bad for them because they've been the reason, why we haven't been as good this year, in my opinion. I mean, the offensive, they've taken more, they've had more major key pieces out on offense, and they've still carried the load most of the season.
Sure. Well, I guess it just goes to show like how valuable Dalvin Cook is to this offense. I mean, if it's going to fall apart because you don't have a running back, and I mean, we need him back, and so we're going to face our guy Khalil Mack, the big boys from Chicago coming up, man. I mean, that's always like our litmus test for the season. How well does this offensive line? We kind of say, how well is this offensive line? And we'll wait until we play Chicago and see where we stack up because we've just been dominated. And, we want to, I mean, that's kind of, I mean, it's been, 2 years since we've had this issue with the offensive line and the Chicago Bears. And here we are again at the end of the season. I mean, Chicago could sit people. I doubt it. They're playing decently well. Are we going to sit people and just sit with the seed that we're in? I don't know. I mean, do we have a chance to move any seeds? I mean, that's the thing. But we did Monday night had a chance to put a stamp on some seeding. And that's what sucks. And that's why I would feel bad for the defense because they played well enough to get that higher seed. And the offense just wasn't there for them. Moving on from that conversation, Chicago Bears coming up on Sunday.
We added more layers to this. We just added layers.
Tried to sneak that one through there.
It's only 40 minutes. I just looked at the clock now. I thought it was 50. But you're right about when you say they had a chance. This wasn't the only game of the season, though. You know what I mean? Like, you can't say it's just this one game because then that throws out all the other games. You see what I'm saying? If they didn't get down 21-0, maybe we would have won that first game. If Cousins didn't throw that crappy pick, his worst pick as a quarterback, including, Pop Warner, maybe we would have won that. Like, you can't put a whole season on this one game. We would have moved up or whatever. Here's my thing with Smith. We gave up 8 tackles for loss. Okay? He got 5.5 of them. He got 3.5 sacks himself. If that's not a dominant performance on defense, I don't know what is. 8 tackles for loss. This is not college football. I mean, I think it's very self-explanatory when it comes to this, and we have issues with certain lines, and we actually have talked about this a couple times, about now next year we really have to get that left side, much like the middle. We got 2 out of the 3 in the middle. I think Brad, it's hard to get too down on Bradbury, right? Because, he's a young guy, yada, yada, yada. He's going to get better. He's already shown that he's going to be a damn good player. I just can't like I said, I just can't feel that bad for the defense, who's continually played horrible this year. And I say horrible with the high standards, of course, from the last 3.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you said that because, there's a lot of bad defenses in this league.
Yeah, that's why I preferenced it because there's no way I'm going to do that. But they did give up chunk runs before at 10-9. You know what I mean? And at even 17-9. Fourth quarter, that's a different ball game. You're beat down. That's different. But I guess I'm not just shocked, as some other folks are, that's the performance we put up. Once you see it play out on paper, sure, yeah, I'm definitely shocked. But when we've done it routinely under Zimmer defensively, it's just not that shocking.
Yeah, I thought it was. You keep bringing up like other games in the season, and did you not find something uniquely different about this game on Monday night? I mean, I thought it was shocking how stagnant that offense was. It was just shocking. It was like, yes, what's his name had a great game. I can see that, and he was causing trouble the whole game, but you got to find another way to move the football, and
which is short passing.
It just.
No, what else are we going to do? We're not going to go deep.
That's
for sure. What else are we going to do then?
You're just kind of coming around to my point I made earlier. It's like, what else are you going to do if you can't? We tried short passing, did we not?
I don't believe no, I don't think we did. I didn't see a bunch of 4-yard slants. I did not see a bunch of those. No.
I mean, I thought we could have maybe like hung our hat on the screen game a little bit more. That probably would have slowed the rush down. But I mean, obviously they don't pay us to. I just don't. I mean, I just have to assume that they didn't have confidence that any of that would work. Otherwise, they'd call it. I mean, I don't think. I just feel it was a very unique offensive performance in the fact that it was so lousy and the ways it was lousy. I thought defense played well.
Right, and there's reasons
said that
for
1,000
that.
times.
There's reasons for that.
And you're contending that it was a stout pass rush.
I'm contending it was all purpose. The major blame is not Cousins. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, then we're going to just have to agree to disagree because I feel like that was the nexus of the problem. It wasn't the whole problem.
That's fair.
But that was the central point of the problem offensively on Monday night.
All right. So now it is at the 45 mark, so we will move on. And, hey, here we go. Actually, I mean, we got some questionable statuses. And, we're actually doing it on a Thursday instead of a Monday or Tuesday. So we actually have some sort of injury list that we can look at, and it actually tells us something, right? And we've actually been struggling with that once in a while when you do it on Monday. Now, that Goldman tore us up last time too. Remember,
Yep.
we were like, oh, we don't have Hicks. Goldman just tore us up. Okay, so now Hicks and Goldman. We're going to get to this damn Bears defense at some point. Hicks and Goldman are questionable. Now, they're not out, but they're questionable. So, I don't do a ton of praying, but I may get down on the knees tonight. No. But now Kendricks is questionable too. Nothing serious, but I don't know if for sure he'll play. I'm assuming Cook will be out at this point. Maybe if Matson's ankle's feeling okay, he can give it a go. It'd be nice to get a game under him, and just depth in general, because he is a guy that can make it miss a little bit. He can make that extra little, he makes something out of nothing. Maybe not like Cook, but in the realm anyway. So, if Hicks and Goldman are out, well, okay, now they're both guys on the line, along with our favorite linebacker, who is basically an edge on third down, right? I mean, especially when they play us. Are we going to see, actually, this kind of is perfect example to kind of continue with what we're talking about, just in a different way, right? Since we are playing the Bears and we know what they've done to us 3 times in a row now. What are we going to do on first and second down? And how many yards are we going to pick it up? And that's what it goes back to the screen or the short passing, because, hey, at least we picked up 2, 3 yards, 4 yards. And if we're consistently getting in the 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 12, we're going to be in a whole heap of problems. And they're going to eat us up, especially if one of those guys, Hicks or Goldman, will be back. And you know how it goes. They probably will, right? Questionable doesn't mean a whole lot in the league. You barely see probable anymore. It's either out or questionable. So, I mean, sometimes Belichick will have 14 dudes questionable and they'll all play. You know what I mean? So who knows? But I think that's going to be key, Aaron. What are we going to do to make it third and somewhat manageable? Because then you can, what we kind of battled about a little bit, open up the playbook in a variety of ways, and maybe not just the ways we're talking about either. So if Vegas has this, what we think it is, I mean, it's right there, dude. It is right there. I mean, they got us by a point at home. So that tells you they think it's 50-50. I agree with the low scoring. 36.5 is the over-under. So I do agree with that. I don't think either squad will put up 30. And if that's the case, then it probably is some sort of 5 turnover day on some side, and they just, added some points that just, appeared. Their offense, though, here's the difference. Especially early on this year, but really last year too, because they had that offense clicking. Their offensive coordinator got picked and plucked, and they're not as good this year offensively, but they are really, really bad offensively. I'm talking really, really bad offensively. And they can't run the ball to save their life. We know the quarterback's going to run on third down, right? We know that. We got to get Barr to spy him. I think that'll be a key thing. And you are right. They are playing a little better. They did manage to get a couple of wins. Sure, they lost to Kansas City, who's been hot, by the way, ever since we lost to them, right? That's the Vikings' opposite curse, right? That's the bump we give other teams. We get cursed, but we bump other teams. They almost beat Green Bay, actually. It was a pretty close game 2 weeks ago. So they've been in some tight games lately or whatever, besides that last game. But the big thing to me is they can't run the ball. So we can't be giving up. I know that 180 really is probably about 140, because a lot of that was one on that long run. But we can't be giving up run to this team barely at all. I mean, they average 86 a game, which is really low. So, and even with that porous outing, we're still at 130 from last week, that horrible outing. And it's not like they're really not that great at pass. The secondary's not that great this year. And a lot of that probably has to do with their porous offense. We can't really blame the defense for them. You're averaging 17 points That's really, really bad. That's one of the worst. I don't know exactly where we're at, but I do agree that this is a pick'em game, and it's a low-scoring game as far as the NFL, relatively speaking, right? So how do you see this one playing out, man? The one thing that's in the back of my head is the bounce-back ability under Zimmer. And maybe the Bears, well, not maybe. We know they don't have anything to play for besides pride. So the combination of that makes me feel like we're going to eke out this game, but I'm sure not confident about it.
No, and it's hard to be. I mean, after the performance that we just saw, but I do like what you said about the bounce back thing. That is a real thing here, and do I want to ride on it? I don't know. I mean, you got to sure that some asses got chewed this week from Zimmer, and so if that's got to get you going, and I don't know, man. I mean, yeah, Hicks might be out and Golden might be out, but there's a guy they got, it's third string, that probably come up and fucking wreak havoc on us as well. So, it's Mac is kind of that centerpiece, and what you got to do to stop him weakens a lot of other spots, and shit, you could put anybody in that spot and probably have a pretty nice day. So, I mean, Mac just wreaks havoc on that tackle that we got, Reef, and it's going to be hard to contain him. But like you said, you were really right about the history of this game, how it's gone the last couple of years. Is like you can't find yourself in third and long. We've got to be able to run, on first down. We've got to be able to get 4 yards, run, pass, whatever, screen. I think that's a thing that we need to really try to do against this team, is screen all day long against that pass rush if you can. And do that. Keep them off balance. I mean, that's what you really got to do defensively, and then just try to eat the ball offensively and keep the ball in your hands. I mean, that's kind of the secret to winning this one. And I think they wrecked us really bad the last game of the season last year, didn't they? I'm trying to remember. I can't really remember all that well, but I think we had
and even this year, both of us called it the same way. Sure, the scoreboard didn't tell you they kicked their ass, but they kicked their ass.
And it's just, like you said about broken records with this football team, Chicago's just got our number as far as matchups go defensively. But, I guess I had it one way, and then you told me the Vegas line, excuse me. And that makes sense to me. I had it really low scoring. I do like the bounce back. I do like being at home. So what I had originally written was Vikings 10, Bears 13. I'm going to go just reverse that score and go Vikings 13, Bears 10. Just because you hit me with the bounce back, and that's a real thing, and it does happen here. And so I think they will get the win. It will be low scoring. It will be close. And I think that the Vikings will eke out a win here. I don't know what that does for seeding. I'm sure you can go on and tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I'm got the Vikes winning, and I have it, both of them under 20. I have it 16-10. Or wait, what I have it? I think I wrote it down. 19 to 13. I think that's what it was. Yeah, 19-13. So a pretty heavy field goal day, which, man, knock on wood, here we freaking go. Oh God, this is just a Vikings fan right here, isn't it? Oh my gosh. It's a field goal game. Oh, I feel real confident now that I said it.
Speaking of that, man, old Kai Forbat's kicking somewhere pretty well. I saw on some highlights. I don't remember if he's in Carolina or no, he's with a team that's pretty good. Kai Forbat's Dallas, perhaps. I think he's kicking for Dallas.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I can't remember, but yeah. I did recently see, some highlights.
You hit a 50-yarder last week, and I was just like, really? Kai Forbat's still out there doing it? Anyway, I thought that was interesting to see. But yeah, man, I digress.
Yeah. So yeah. It basically looks like we're gonna, be the sixth team. There's still plenty of maneuvering that can happen. With Philly, obviously, they looks like they're going to win the division, or they are going to win the division. They just haven't clinched it all the way yet, but they are going to get in the playoffs because they just beat. Or wait, do they have to? Yeah, they just beat Dallas. Yeah, they just beat Dallas. So they're in. So it could be. I'm assuming Green Bay is going to beat Detroit. Stranger things have happened. If Stanford was playing, that'd be different because then at least they could maybe air it out a bunch and just end up beating them or whatever. But if they don't have him, it's going to be rough. Saw Vikings had 7 turnovers against them, so I mean, on them. So I would probably have to say it's because Philly, because they win their division, even though they may be 8-8, they may be 9-7. They're going to get that first wild card game at home because of that division win. Which that's a doozy if we get in there with 11 wins in a team that has that. But that's the rules. Everybody plays by the same, so it is what it is. So it's looking kind of like everything's kind of tied up right now a little bit. It is kind of looking like maybe New Orleans. Maybe Seattle. I'd probably want to play New Orleans because at least it's indoor. I mean, I don't know. I don't think we're going to get Philly on the road. I would like that, but I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, it's still, there's scenarios that need to play out, but really I think just getting that W would at least, get some sort of confidence, and especially if the defense could play good again. A game, that'd be 4 in a row then. Then you're like, okay, maybe we've answered that question we asked, last week. Are they rounding into shape or are they ready to go? And they should. There's no reason why they shouldn't have success here. And it definitely wasn't the defense's fault last year. That's for sure in those games. It was all on the offense. So we'll see, man. We will see. And real quick, I want to bring up the stat just to keep with the Minnesota theme, living in Loserville. The Timberwolves have officially gone winless from Thanksgiving Day until Christmas Day. We went holiday to holiday without a win. Now, don't tell me the score right now if you're watching or seeing it or you breeze by it. I'm going to DVR it. We do need Cat back. That's for sure. The crazy thing in all this losing streak, right? They're only 3.5 games still out of the 8th spot in the West. So it's like, hey guys, just turn it around, get to January. We could maybe get some mojo back. But yeah, it's pretty ugly. The Gophers basketball, by the way, got that big win, with Ohio State, and then followed up with a dominant performance against Oklahoma State. Now they got a week off, or they had a week off, or it's coming around. A couple days they're going to play a game they'll easily win, and then we're into the Big Ten schedule, and we should let you know.
Whoa.
Well, let the audience know here real quick.
Yeah. Easily win. You just mentioned they would easily win a game.
Well, do you see the opponent?
I don't think we ever can say we're going to easily win any game against any opponent ever in Loserville.
I mean, that's fair. I'll give you that. And now we are going to lose by 30. Damn it.
I'm just saying, I would never say a game we're going to easily win so confidently, man. But hey, man.
You know what it is?
You do that.
You know what it is? It's the Gophers' non-conference history against crappy teams. Maybe that just got my chest out. You know what I mean? Maybe that's what it is. Like, one thing we're good at is building up against soft, historically speaking, not this year because we didn't have a soft record non-conference, but we've had plenty of soft starts where we're like, yeah, dude, here we go. Yeah, this could be the whole Big Ten's over. But that's fair. That is fair and definitely worthy of mentioning. You are correct. But as I was saying, though, hopefully, how about I put it that way? Hopefully, we get a win we should get. But just so you guys know, when the Vikings season's over, for those who care, we keep it Minnesota theme here with this Living in Loserville podcast. We go right into Timberwolves and Gophers talk, and it's about half and half because we know the Gopher, basketball program has been, better over a long stretch, even when it's been cheating. Whereas the Timberwolves, we know their track record. So it's about even, whereas Vikings rule this town. Hence, we talk Vikings and then the back end with the Gopher football program. So we do want to let you guys know when the Vikings season is over, for those who care about, some local talk about the Wolves and the Ghosts, we'll be on that. Anything else you'd like to bring up or mention or anything like that, sir, before we shut this puppy down?
No, you did mention what I wanted to say quickly about the Gopher basketball team. It was a great win against Oklahoma State, and it's really fun to go through the winter and look at the Big Ten season, and it's kind of fun with ups and downs. I had a lot of fun doing it last year. Excited to do it again, so it'll be fun. Fun season this year, and hopefully it ends in the tournament. So yeah, man, let's wrap the show up.
All righty, thanks again. As always, thanks just in general this whole season. We're not trying to bow out here like the Vikings are already out of the first round, but we're just letting everybody know because it's the end of the year. Okay, so we appreciate all the listens. Definitely, thanks for the support and whatnot, and we will be back Monday to hopefully talk about a Bears victory from the Vikes, and then playoff talk. This team is going to the playoffs regardless of what happens on Sunday at noon. It's a noon game. So Cousins is gonna be up for it, dude. He's like, man, I get so tired at 9:00 at night. So because I go to bed so early, I got everything scheduled out. So noon game. So our quarterback should be good to go there. But we'll be back next Monday. It'll be quick turnaround. Go Vikes. Let's get that W. You guys take it easy. Peace.
Peace.